You're watching PowerNation.
Today on Detroit Muscle, we get by with a little help from our friends as we polish and shine this retro rocket back to a showroom finish.
Plus, we slap on a new decal kit to help turn back the hands of time. Have you ever heard the phrase, she's a 20-footer? That usually refers to from a distance, everything looks pretty good. But whenever you get up close and personal, those imperfections become quite obvious. To improve one's outward appearance and inner beauty isn't as hard as you might think.
Usually it just takes a little bit of effort and some TLC to go a long way. We have a few techniques that can be applied to enhance what the eye can see.
With black cars, we've all heard it. They show everything, and there's so much upkeep. Well, I would say there's some truth to that. But I'd also say there's just something about that deep, dark black paint that when it's right, there's not another color that can even get close to having that sinister and alluring look all at the same time. Our Olds has lived a sheltered life and is a nice car. The paint is all original, and from where you're sitting, it don't look too bad. However, it needs some love. This Hurst Olds has a loud graphics package that GM used to make a statement. But what it's saying right now is old. The stripes and letters are starting to deteriorate and look kind of frayed. There's really no way to restore these, so they need to be replaced. We're gonna strip off the stickers, polish the paint, and then reinstall a fresh set of decals to roll back the clock.
Now before we put these old stripes to the floor, we need to map out their current placement so that we can be as close to original as possible when we go to put the new ones on. Now some of these decals were actually put on by hand from the factory, so there's a good chance that no two cars are the same, and some of these might even be a little bit crooked. But we're going for perfection. Spending an extra few minutes now can help answer questions later. I like to use common reference points like body lines and door gaps to measure from because those don't change once you remove the decals. Now to the naked eye, it appears that the bottom of this T and the top of this silver line and the bottom of this R and the top of this silver line are the same distance. But there's a difference of 0.074 inch. So you can tell these were definitely laid on by hand.
To get rid of the stripes off the side of our Hurst Olds, there's a few ways that a person could get the job done. I'm going to refer to a chemical, thermal, or mechanical way. Now, if you're looking to use some solution to take those off, there's a couple things that you should keep in mind. One is you want to make sure that the solvent isn't so strong that you actually will remove or soften the paint that you're trying to save. And it's a good idea to use some protective gear because too much exposure can ruin your day. Now, the other way you can do it is with a thermal direction. This little heat gun, you can apply some heat to it and then it'll soften up the adhesive that's on the back side of the vinyl, and usually it peels right off. But you get too hot with this, you can melt the paint and damage it. Sometimes guys like to use razor blades. You can go to your parts store and pick up a plastic razor blade, and these are far more forgiving. Now, the way I really and truthfully prefer is to use a decal eraser. With this, you just simply put it in a drill and turn it at a low speed, and it will basically roll that decal right off the panel. All three of these are viable options. You just have to determine which one's best for you in your situation or what you're comfortable with. And you never know, you may end up trying all of them on the same job. Before you just grab one of these and get to spinning, you need to know what you're dealing with. Older enamel paints are much softer than newer urethanes. So special care and a delicate touch can help prevent damage to the surface of the softer materials. With long continuous decals, putting the heat to it can be very efficient. Just pull and preheat as you go, and once you find your rhythm, you may even start having fun. So satisfying. Well, Joel's finishing up taking off our final piece of pinstripe off of our Oldsmobile. The next step for this thing is going to be a day at the spa. We're going to be rejuvenating the paint to improve its reflection.
Up next, our pals from Sonax stop by to help us get cut and buff.
Now with the stripes gone, you can really start seeing the flaws in the paint. So we got in touch with our buddies over at Sonax to help us bring this ride back to a showroom shine. We removed some of the personality off of our G-body in an effort to improve the reflection. Rob and Cole, what do you guys think about our Oldsmobile?
Well, I'm super excited about this because I had a 81 Cutlass Supreme. I'm excited to get this thing looking like I always wanted mine to look.
Yeah, we've got an original paint car. It has several, I guess you'd say, paint blemishes on it. It's been washed a bunch of times. It's real hazy, but black, you know, is kind of a great color to make a transformation.
Yeah, we'll do a quick test spot just to see what kind of paint we're working with to understand if it's single stage or if it's clear coated. I think I've got a hunch, but we'll know exactly what we're working with after just a quick test.
Now, I would assume it's going to be a couple steps to get this thing to perfection.
Well, if it's single stage, I think we can possibly do it in one step, but we'll know more here in a few minutes, so we're excited.
What do you think?
Personally, I've never had one of these cars, so I don't have the connection like Rob does, but I think the paint on here needs some good loving, and I think it'll turn out great.
And black is one of those colors that it shows everything, every imperfection, every blemish, and if you can get it cleaned up and looking good, it is one of the prettiest colors on the planet, and it's hard to beat, so. We trust your guys' expert opinion on that, though.
Nothing like a black car that's clean and shiny.
Yeah, we know that the car is going to have a few, you know, things that can't be repaired because it's an original paint car and it's got chips and that kind of thing. We just know it being what it is, and with kind of the look that it has, it's going to be daylight and dark different when we're done.
It's got a little gray hair.
Hey. No need to be poking at me, okay? Well, what's the first step you guys want to get into?
We'll test it, probably clay disc it, just to remove all the imperfections that are in it, and then we'll get to work and making it shine.
You gonna need help?
We're gonna need a lot of help.
All right then.
So the first thing we're going to do is just do a very small test spot to see what kind of paint it is, see if there's clear coat. We're going to take a compound, just a compound in our line. We're just going to do a very small spot, and we're going to do something very simple. We're just going to do a little test spot. Turn this over, and there's some black paint on it. There's no clear coat on this. People just don't know if it's a single stage or it's been clear coated. Very simple way to find out really, really quick.
Upon further evaluation, it was way worse than we anticipated. We had to take multiple steps to bring back the luster that was buried under all those scratches and contaminants. When you have a difficult task like this, the easiest way to cram more hours into the day is to throw more people at it. You can tell we're moving in the right direction because progress is being made.
Man, Cole, you do some good work, my man.
That's just with a clay bar too.
Yeah, you can clearly see like there's a visual difference just on this side and that side alone.
There is a little bit. It brings out some gloss. It also removes any paint contaminants or imperfections that are actually on the paint that after you wash it might still be there. So I gave you a plastic bag and you can actually feel it, but for the people at home, I know you're not here to actually feel it, but you can also hear it.
All right, let's give it the test.
So it kind of feels like sandpaper, sounds like sandpaper.
Right. Yeah, you can definitely tell where the line is of like you said, it's kind of a sandy grittiness, and then it's just like, whoosh,
Yeah.
like a nice smooth surface.
Right.
Very well done, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, I'll get back out of your way so you can finish your work.
Absolutely.
This Oldsmobile is getting rubbed in every nook, cranny, and crevice in an effort to turn back the clock to when this car rolled off the assembly line.
It's amazing what happens when you apply some TLC to what you perceive as a shiny car. It's not uncommon to find issues with black paint. These Sonax products make the job look effortless. Heck, we're not even breaking a sweat, removing 4 decades of wear and tear off of our G-body. If you're looking for paint perfection, the recipe is simple: a good game plan and Sonax. Coming up, we turn our Hurst Olds into a motorized mirror.
While everybody else is finishing up on the car here, I took the liberty to kind of show the 2 steps in this case of how we take the paint from original to cutting it or buffing it and then taking it to the final polish stage. So what I've done is I've taped off 3 different segments here. With our original paint here on the top, what we did is we left that kind of as is or stock. The second step down here is what we used in our cutting step, is the cutting compound. So what we did there is we used an aggressive wool pad with an aggressive compound, and we cut that. So cutting it will eliminate, it'll cut out those scratches, the swirls, the holograms that are on your paint. And again, this is 40-year-old paint. So we're dealing with a lot of issues here on a single stage paint. And what we've done here is we've cut this, and as you can see, it still has a little bit of a haze. So that's kind of the question that we get a lot of times, is what's the difference between the two? This section down here has been cut and polished. So we've eliminated the scratches, the swirls, all of the imperfections that have been in that paint for, over 40 years. So original paint, we've eliminated the scratches, and brought the paint back with some gloss. So kind of a quick synopsis as far as how the steps are performed. Very easy, quick description on what the process is.
To give you a rundown of what we've used to create this masterpiece includes clay disc, some glass cleaner, a few different pads, 2 compounds, and some microfiber cloths. Nothing out of the ordinary. Well, almost. It makes sense to be cleaning that glass with that clay bar, because the contaminants don't just skip around the glass.
Right, it's very similar to the paint. You want to get those particles, the imperfections out of the glass, just like as you would want to get them out of the paint. You obviously also want to keep your glass clean surface. You want to get rid of all those imperfections, that bumpy sandpaper feel like we talked about earlier.
Do you have to scrub it very hard?
The clay disc does it itself. All you do is just lightly agitate the glass, the paint. That gets rid of those imperfections and creates that smooth surface we're looking for.
Now, do you have to use any kind of special lubricant or anything for that?
Our glass cleaner is actually our clay lubricant. So when we do the clays on the paint, we're using our glass cleaner, and we also use it on our glass, and that also is a 2-in-1 really for cleaning the glass and removing those imperfections in the paint.
So is that disc reusable?
It is reusable. If you drop it on the ground, all you have to do is spray it off with some water and you're good to go. It can last around 50 cars.
Man, that's a bunch of cars. I don't want to clean that many today, though. Now, what is the technique? Like, do you have to apply a bunch of pressure, circular, as opposed to just front and back?
You want to try to work with the direction of the vehicle, the surface. So on a hood, you're going to want to go back and forth. You're not going to want to go sideways. You want to just try to keep those vertical motions, and you want to stay consistent with your hand motion.
How often should someone have to do that procedure?
It really depends on the condition of the paint of the vehicle itself. If you're going to put on a long-lasting protection, I would do it no matter what, just to get the most durable and the most clean a vehicle can be before you put on that durable protection.
Because what you're trying to do is to remove those contaminants before you put that coating on top of it to get it off the paint and not sandwich it in between, right?
Correct. You are trying to get the paint, the glass, as clean as you physically can. That protection is bonding to the paint, and if the vehicle's dirty, if those imperfections are still on the paint or on the vehicle, it's going to be bonding to those imperfections instead of the paint surface. Can
you use that pad on more surfaces other than paint and glass?
Yeah, it's safe to use on the whole exterior of the vehicle. It's not going to damage anything, and it's just going to help get those imperfections out of the surface.
I've used those before, not saying I shouldn't have done a better taping on the vehicle that I was painting, but that stuff helps to remove overspray on glass and painted surfaces.
It does, and I will say the one nice thing about the clay disc as well is that it's a Velcro backing, so you can attach it to a polisher and you can knock out a car in 10 minutes.
I'm just curious, is that window gonna be way more clean than this window?
This window's gonna be way more clean than this window.
Well, me and Joel definitely want to thank you guys for all your hard work. This thing has made one dramatic transformation.
It really has. We're always up for a challenge, and this one certainly was a challenge.
This car kind of went from that silvery black to real black now.
It is indeed a black car.
Up next, we stick it where the sun will shine.
We've got our Hurst Olds all shined up, and it's easy to see that it has a good amount of glamour right now. We're finally to a point where we can add on a crucial component that gives this car its identity.
And you know, it's truly amazing how much a cool graphics package or some classy pinstriping can really boost the personality of a ride. Manufacturers have been using decals to dress up Detroit muscle for generations. Billboards, stripes, and engine sizes, just to name a few.
What we have stretched out here across the table is a life-size decal kit similar to what you would find in a model car box that we picked up from Phoenix Graphix. Now, a few of you guys may be squirming in your seat from all these pieces of vinyl that we're going to have to stretch down the side of our Oldsmobile. But we've got a few tips and tricks that we're going to show you to ease that strain. The first order of business, though, is getting that car clean. What we're looking to remove here is dust and debris because you don't want any of those particles to wind up under your decal. A couple of quick spritz and a wipe with a microfiber and you're ready to go.
Another helpful tip if you're putting on a graphics package is to make sure you do this indoors and out of direct sunlight. Take your time, pay attention to the details, and follow that game plan.
Now, whenever you apply your decal, one thing it's kind of wise to do is come in, kind of equally mash it to the car. If you was to take the spreader and just kind of pull it across there, sometimes what happens is it rolls all that excess vinyl here to one end and it causes it to bunch up, and that will create a little fold or imperfection into the decal. So once you mash it to the surface, then it's usually safe to come back and really rub it down.
You know, when you're restoring a car like this, it can be tempting to try and go out and find an NOS style decal kit
just so you're as close to authentic as possible. But the problem with that is that the adhesive is probably a little bit dried out and crusty, and it's probably a little bit discolored too. So if you can find a nice reproduction decal kit like this from Phoenix Graphix, man, I tell you, the final product and the longevity, it's worth its weight in gold.
You guys may have noticed that we've applied a liquid to the body and the backside of our decal before we stick them on. What that is some application gel. This gives us the ability to kind of wiggle things around to that sweet spot before we stick it to the surface. Phoenix Graphix has decals for hundreds of makes and models. So if you're doing a restoration or a tribute, they've got you covered.
Man, oh man, talk about time well spent. And you know, for 40 years old, this middle-aged muscle has a reflection that's reminiscent of its youth.
Now, is it perfect? By no means is that a yes, but we knew with some TLC that it would make a dramatic improvement. Now, if this project has also piqued your interest, well, the fun has just begun, but we're done for the day.